What are the pros and cons of being a speech-language pathologist? Let's talk about it. And hi, my name's Julia. I've been a licensed speech-language pathologist since 2009, and I've worked in just about every setting as a speech-language pathologist all over the country. I'm a traveling therapist, meaning I take short-term contracts across the U.S., and because of that, I feel like I've gotten to experience all there is in speech pathology, all in a relative short amount of time, because I've been able to work short-term contracts and work at a lot of different settings and work with a lot of different clinicians at different places. So let's get into it. Let's get into what I see as the big pros and cons of being a speech-language pathologist. First and foremost, I think one of the biggest pros about being an SLP is being able to make a difference positively in people's lives through therapy. You get to see improvements in communication, swallowing, language, speech, voice, and you get to work with patients often for a long amount of time to reach those goals. So one of the pros of being a speech-language pathologist, maybe over a nurse or a doctor, is you actually get to spend a lot of time with your patients. Sessions can be 30 minutes to an hour, and that's a longer amount of time to make changes, and it can be really positive to see the changes being made over time. Another big pro about being an SLP is the flexibility it can give you in scheduling. As an SLP, you might want to work full-time, but maybe you only want to work part-time hours or a call-in schedule. Maybe you want to have the summers off and work in the school during the school year. Those are all possible as an SLP. Of course, you need to have the money and financial resources to fill your life when you're not working and pay your bills, but you can work kind of as little or as much as you want to. There are also nationwide job opportunities. Unlike some career industries, we don't have to work in, say, a city or a certain coast. SLPs are needed everywhere across the U.S. So whether you live in a small town or a big city, you can work there. There's also a big demand for speech-language pathologists. There are just not enough of us. And if you graduate as a speech-language pathologist, one place or another, you're going to find a job, and you're pretty much always going to have a job, which is pretty cool. We're in a pretty secure industry. Even in the middle of the pandemic a couple years ago, I never went without work and never had any downtime as an SLP. SLP is also a great career to go into small business or entrepreneurship. As a speech-language pathologist, you can open your own clinic, or you can contract with facilities to work as your own business at another facility, such as a school. So it's cool that you can have so much entrepreneurship in this field. And in my feelings, I noticed that a lot of SLP entrepreneurs encourage other SLP entrepreneurs to start their own businesses and grow their incomes, and that's kind of encouraging. It's a field where you can collaborate with other entrepreneurs versus compete against them, because most people are in different locations of the country, but over the internet and places like this, we all share information on how to grow our private practices and how to consult and private contracts. So it's a great field to be a supported entrepreneur in. Along those lines, I think there's a great sense of community in being an SLP. I've met so many strong, independent, creative, forward-thinking SLPs over the years, and I've been really honored to be a part of this community. I can proudly say my best friends are all speech-language pathologists, and it's just a great community to be a part of. Now, of course, everything I'm talking about in this video is from my own personal experience, so before we get to the cons, I'm going to say something that I'm going to leave in what I'll call the neutral category, and that's money. Money can be a pro or a con depending on a lot of things for you as a speech-language pathologist. Money can vary pretty significantly by geographic location that you're in and the setting you work in. So for instance, some speech-language pathologists might make maybe $40,000 a year, while other ones might make $100,000 or $125,000 a year. That's a pretty big pay gap, especially considering it is quite expensive and time-consuming to become an SLP. So to become a speech-language pathologist, you do need a master's degree, and you need a 9-month clinical fellowship and to pass a national board exam called the Praxis. all of that can take a lot of time and money. So if you're looking at, per se, a career that maybe you could graduate with a bachelor's degree and make $60,000 and make that right off the bat, becoming an SLP where you have to go to school for 2 years longer, pay potentially an extra $50,000 or $100,000 and then not work during those years, it could be that being an SLP might not be a good financial decision for you. But I'm going to leave that up to you. You research what speech-language pathologists are getting paid in your area, how much the schools are in your area. Unfortunately for me, state schools in my home state of Pennsylvania were actually quite expensive, and I didn't get any scholarships to go to them. And kind of research what are the opportunity costs of you going to SLP school, meaning for those 2 years that you would not be working and going to speech-language pathology school, what kind of money could you be bringing in if you weren't working? And at the end of the day, like, is it all kind of worth it for the money to go into speech pathology? Now, all that being said, if you're interested in doing what I did, which is becoming a traveling therapist, you can easily make a lot more money as a speech-language pathologist. For instance, my highest weekly paycheck to date has been $2,400 a week, and I made that over a 13-week assignment. So each month I was making a little under $10K a month. I think that's actually a great amount of money for having a master's degree, and I was really happy with that. But of course, my lowest income as a speech-language pathologist was something like $3,000 a month. And whereas I had $1,000 a month of student loans to take out of that $3,000, it didn't feel like I was making a lot as an SLP. So money can vary, okay? You also have all the entrepreneurship routes, and you could open a private practice, but just know money could be a pro, money could be a con. But now let's talk about what are some of the more certified cons of being a speech-language pathologist. I would say definitely going to grad school and getting the degree is really hard. Getting into graduate school for speech-language pathology is really competitive. It's really time-consuming. You really cannot work while you're in grad school, maybe a couple hours a week, like at a part-time job. That's what I did. But you're really not making money while you're in grad school, and it's a lot of time and a lot of stress. So actually getting through the process of being certified is kind of one of the hardest first steps of being an SLP. Another con that I didn't realize until I was out in the field, and keep in mind I'm a medical SLP, is I have to work weekends and holidays. So in the hospitals, in the rehabs, they don't stop seeing patients because it's a weekend or holiday. So I don't really get to work a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Unfortunately, a lot of my weeks are working like Sunday through Thursday, or Tuesday through Saturday. So I work a lot of weekends and unfortunately have to work a lot of holidays. For me personally, and this goes into that pay thing again, but it's a con for most people I talk to, is the pay ceiling of being an SLP. So you can actually hit the kind of high-end pay ceiling of an SLP relatively early in your career, meaning if a job might pay $40 or $50 an hour at the very highest end, you can be able to negotiate that actually as a fairly new grad. But that being said, you kind of hit your pay ceiling in this career rather early, and places stop giving you a raise when you're at a certain amount, or they just do very, very small raises. And actually, there's very little raises in this field, to be honest. My friends who are in the tech industry easily make an extra 10% a year off of a raise. They get a 10% raise every year. The most I've ever received as a speech-language pathologist was a 2% raise. Some years I didn't get any raise, and sometimes I just got like a quarter an hour more. So there's not a lot of ways to grow your income or your position really over time. Meaning when you're a speech-language pathologist, that's what you do. You're an SLP. There's not a lot of ways to transition into management or non-clinical roles, or roles that don't involve one-to-one patient interaction all the time. So that could actually be a pretty big con, is if you don't like working directly with people all the time, it might be hard for you to be an SLP. I'm an introverted person, and to be honest, I'm exhausted from a physical and mental perspective at the end of my days. Being one-on-one with people for pretty much my entire day, like you'll spend 6 to 7 hours directly with patients a day, it can be very draining, and you have to enjoy those personal interactions to really enjoy the work. It's like if you're having a bad day at home, maybe you just have a headache, you don't feel well, know that you're always going to have to be on at work. Like you can never go to work and just kind of be like, oh, I'll take it easy today. Like I'll just sit at my desk and play on my phone. It's not like that as an SLP. As an SLP, you're always productive. And by productive, I mean seeing patients and being engaged with people, and you kind of always have to be on. Another huge con of being an SLP is the push for us to see higher caseloads and have higher productivity, meaning the places we work for want us to see more and more and more clients, patients, kids, whatever we want to call them, a day, to the point where it's just breaking us. We can't do it. Some people are working overtime but not getting paid for it. They're clocking out. Some people are just burning out altogether. So this expectation that we see more and more people is getting really frustrating, especially because it's coming from a place of maximizing corporate profits. We could easily hire another SLP at many places I've worked, but the places don't want to do that. They want to stack so much work on the one person they have to maximize their profit so that they can make more money. So it's a frustrating place to be in when you're in this field you want to work in because you want to help people, but your employers, the people above you, want you to make profit, and they often put profit over patient care. So that profit over patient care can lead to so much burnout and distress in the field because you got into this field wanting to help people, want to make a difference, and you're just being forced to kind of not do that because the situation around you is not really lending you to do that. So if you're an SLP or you're thinking about being an SLP, drop me a comment. Tell me what you think of this video and what you think your pros and cons are. Check out all my resources, and I love chatting with you guys, so please leave me a comment.